These are the top stories of the day. Bitcoin hit an all-time high. Michael Saylor said he's going to buy more Bitcoin. And then when everyone got excited, everyone was happy. Bitcoin fell 15% in a matter of hours. Welcome to crypto. It's time to go around the blockchain. All right, we got the super chatters already going nuts here. Let's go. Ready to buy some Matic. Some saying healthy resets, but folks, it has been a whirlwind of activity. We got 4 phenomenal guests to talk about it today. We're going to start on the top left. Eric Carlson. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Bitcoin took a big dump, so hopefully I can buy the dip and be ready for the next run up.
Buy the dip, as Crown Chakra said. Also on Johnny Hopper. Johnny's been a while. Johnny, always welcome. Man, glad to see you back, buddy.
Good to be back, DZ. Good to be back.
Also on today, we have Crypto Blood in the red square. Crypto Blood, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Big dump. I hope you got some toilet paper.
I was actually joking with the producers. I might just start the stream of a picture of a person defecating, because the markets definitely did take a dump.
Exactly.
Hive mind. And then last but not least, we got Drew Wolfer looking sharp in the shades. Drew, how are you doing today?
It's all good, man. I had these goggles. I had my aviators on because we were flying earlier. They're my blue light goggles because I'm on my computer all the time, but now it's not as applicable. So
no, it is not. You know what, though? It was just a couple hours ago. Hey, it would have fit perfectly, folks. Here, let me share this chart just so you know what we're talking about. I said, it has been a whirlwind of activity. Look at this, folks. Bitcoin took a huge correction, got pretty close to 69K, 68,825. I'm going to run this chart real quick. You see, just as it broke a little above $69,000 in a very, very short time, these are 7-minute candles. 5 hours later, you can see a nice 15% correction right there. Now, I was looking at the historical chart here. Just keep it here just for 1 second. Folks, last time we hit all-time high. Oh, God, I'm on the 7. Here we go. Last time we hit the previous cycle's all-time high, December 2020. That's when we hit the December 2017 highs. Folks, it was a little bit more volatile than people expected or people remembered. People typically just remember the run-up. Oh, wow, yeah, let's just off to the races after 20. No, it was volatile. There were corrections. You can see some pretty steep corrections here. Nothing like what we've seen today. But, just look right there. That was just, I want to say it was around a 10%. Oh, wow. Wow, 16% pullback from this level to that level. So, folks, we've seen this before. Now, Crypto Blood, it's not your first cycle. You've seen this volatility before. I felt like it was an obvious short. I didn't short at 69K. Did you short at 69K? Why or why not?
Yeah, I mean, I showed on my live stream where I had the area of resistance, and maybe I closed it, darn it. But yeah, if you checked out my stream today and yesterday, I showed you where we would see some levels of resistance. And I said we kind of ran up to that point a little early. So if we would have taken our time to move up and hit 69K on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, I think it would have been a different story, but we didn't. We ran up, got ahead of ourselves, and I'm calling cap on all-time high, by the way. I'm calling cap.
All right, so explain, is it, I know on Binance, it didn't, but what's your reasoning for cap on the all-time high today?
It hit it on Coinbase, any other exchange. I heard MEXC, but I'm not counting MEXC. I gotta see all-time highs on, first of all, the most volume, the most volume traded exchange, which is Binance. So I need to see it there and maybe 2 or 3 other ones. I haven't seen it yet, bro. Coinbase, really? We're going to count Coinbase? The people that showed you zero balance. Them? We're counting them? Okay, all right. No.
Wow.
Not at all.
All right, Eric Carlson, he just brought up a very good point. Are we going to trust the exchange that showed us a $0 balance? Are you considering this an all-time high?
I still consider it an all-time high, but you just showed that last little bit of the chart and it's funny because that exact moment was the first time I ever did a leverage trade. I took a short at the all-time high last time, and I profited on that 16% drop, and then I flipped it bullish, and then I profited on the way up. It was my most legendary trade that I did. It was the first trade I ever did, and I'm really not a great trader, so don't take that with a grain of salt. But I think we hit all-time highs. I think we had a nice pullback, 15%. I mean, yeah, I'm in Bitcoin. Am I scared of a 15% dump? No, I didn't sell enough at the top last time, and I rode a good stack down, and then I stacked what I could in the bear market. So a 15% dump doesn't scare me. I expect a dump right at the all-time highs. I do catch on 4-hour 50 EMA, and then we're just going to bounce and keep going to new all-time highs.
All right, we
Hey,
got
Deezy,
vampires in the chat, man. Blood everywhere. Go ahead.
Show my chart really quickly.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
was the
Let's see
chart I
this.
was talking about. This yellow line here, I drew. It's been up there for a while, but yesterday I said, look, we ran up to this point a little bit too fast. 69,000 is over here in Wednesday's zone, and so us not hitting it, I think, or hitting it too early, just gave us room for a nice pullback, and that's exactly what happened. We're bouncing between my two trend lines, and as long as we stay above the $60,000 marker, which is our 4 zeros, quad zero psychological hold numbers, we should be good. But yeah, man, I did not think we would take, blow right through it this time, because we came up to that level prematurely, in my opinion.
All right, a little premature. And, I'm glad you said we hit there really, really soon. Now, Johnny, I want to share my chart one more time because I want to show something to the chat here. We pumped to an all-time high a month and a half before the halving. This is the May halving of 2020. We pumped 7 months after. You can see 198 days right there. Then you extrapolate out to about 210. We pumped 7 months after the halving in 2020. This time we pumped 1 month before the halving in 2024. Johnny, what is going on? Are we hitting these levels too soon? And what does that mean for Bitcoin's price?
Truthfully, history has a way of repeating itself. So why not us pump up by Christmas yet again? We all knew that there was going to be some volatility at 69. I actually shorted right around 68, but then I got out and I totally reversed my trade at 62, because sort of like what Crypto Blood's chart looks like, and I doubled down because I thought I was going to hit the liquidation wick right there, but nope, there was even further, went to 58, and then I was SOL on there. So, oh well, that's how it happens. I suspect a slow grind back up after the halving. There's going to be some more volatility, but we've officially entered what is going to be the next bull market. And I think the economy makes a big deal. We're probably not going to see a rate cut here in March. They're probably not going to do anything, at least the Fed. They probably will wait till, the next one is in June. So once we get a rate cut, then it's like, hey, now I can go get a loan to go buy volatile assets like cryptocurrency. Until then, I think this was really the big pump right there. So we needed the pullback. Now we just need a few weeks of sideways action.
All right, so there's a little price action to, punish some of the traders out there. Now, Drew, I want to share this. This is the recent price action. This is on the 7-minute chart. I go to the 10-minute chart. Wow, look at that. Look at that candlestick. No body on this candle. It is just wick. Many people call this a scam wick. Let me see if I get the prices in. There we go. What exactly is a scam wick? When you're looking at charts like this, I mean, when you see that, what is this telling you in relation to exchanges and leverage traders?
Dude, those are liquidations, man. That's liquidations and stop losses. That's just cascades. There was a lot of people that flipped. Probably, I mean, to be honest with you, on the pullback, I mean, there was a pretty decent reason and bias behind getting in at the 60, I believe it was like 63.3 level. And then, dude, like anybody that hit 15 or 20x leverage or more on that level is getting just smashed through whenever it goes down to 58. So, I mean, just logically speaking, in my opinion, that's definitely a liquidation event right there, where and you can kind of see because it bounced that quick. I mean, you said it was a 7-minute candle. I mean, if it bounces that quick, you can kind of tell that, the one side was pushing it down, liquidating everybody, and then buying it right back up, So this is, I mean, market makers do what market makers do, and exchanges do what exchanges do. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that was just a bunch of liquidations, and they know where the stop losses are too.
Yeah, good point there. They know
that
where
helped.
to hunt you, folks. They do know where to hunt you. Now, talking about the cycle, we're way ahead of schedule. I might ask everybody this question. Eric, is the 4-year cycle dead since we pumped a full month before the halving, reached previous all-time halvings for the first time in Bitcoin's history? It is the 4-year cycle just inert at this point?
I tend to think it is, but I have a small theory that I've been working on. It's that last cycle we had kind of a muted secondary, all-time high when we hit 69. A lot of people were expecting 100,000. I was expecting more around the 100,000. And I think FTX had a lot to do with us not reaching our full potential. And if 100,000 was where we were supposed to go, had FTX not stolen customer funds and lost it and really affected the market, then maybe 69,000 right now makes a lot of sense for the 4-year cycles. But, also with the ETFs added in, those are, that's not small news. That's huge. They're buying up literally billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin. So I tend to think that the 4-year cycles are coming to an end. At a very minimum, I think diminishing returns have come to an end. So it's going to be interesting. And it's the $1 million question, do you sell your Bitcoin and try and buy back on a dip and grow your stack? Or are you going to sell your Bitcoin stack too early and never be able to grow your stack ever again? It's tough.
Drew, what do you think? Is the 4-year cycle dead forever?
I wouldn't say that it's dead forever because I think cycles can go to other assets too, right? So we can see the rest of the altcoin markets and things like that. Those could definitely still be in a 4-year cycle, but we do see them always, well, not always, well, actually, yeah, so far always have been following Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is on a steady kind of like trajectory upward, I do believe that it could be a little bit less, I guess like up and down, like that 4-year cycle could be less of just a bleed because the institutions aren't going to want it to bleed as much. But I can see the steady progression of Bitcoin going upwards, especially since that 4-year cycle is because of the halving. And essentially there's less Bitcoin coming onto the market. But I do see a lot of people that are buying this Bitcoin or people that are selling the Bitcoin to the ETFs that are buying it and issuing the ETF shares. I see those people putting it into altcoins like Ethereum, right? So I don't think you're going to miss your opportunity because even though maybe the Bitcoin ETF, maybe people did miss their opportunity, but they might be able to get it on the Ethereum ETF, right? Or, maybe an XRP ETF and other ETFs that are coming out in the future because this is just the benchmark to test the market and see if this is actually a thing. And clearly it is.
All right. Well, clearly there were also some pullbacks after we hit the all-time high. Now, Johnny, I'm going to pull up the chart. This is 2020 run-up. The circle is when we first breached 20K. And then if you look right here, this was January. So not even just a couple months later, a very nice pullback, over 30% right there. And then there's another one. I want to say it was a little bit less, but still pretty pronounced. And then we had another one, 26%, 27%. So we saw pullbacks. Are the pullbacks going to be stronger or weaker as we gear up for, the next year or so of bullish action?
Gosh, that's a loaded question because truthfully, I think the pullbacks are going to be less as far as percentage wise, but more because of how much more money is involved. And back to what Drew was talking about, eventually we're going to see the end of the cycle just because it's going to take an obscene amount of money to create that type of cycle ideology. And with the institutions, once we break over gold of $10 trillion, like this asset is not going to be as volatile. And so that's why I respect everybody that was just involved in the 15% dump here. We know places like Coinbase and them, they essentially shut down. They said your assets are safe, but you couldn't do anything with them.
But Johnny, we're using them as a barometer for all-time highs. I'm not understanding.
Truthfully, Crypto Blood, I think we did get the all-time high. Like that was it. It said on one of the major exchanges, they're the most regulated exchange. I believe they're going to be the ones that are going to stay around the longest because they are a publicly traded company. So they got shareholders that they gotta. There's less shady stuff that can happen with Coinbase, but I kind of went off on digressing there DZ, to really answer.
No, that's a Johnny move. That's a Johnny move. That's why we like having you on here, man. Meandering thoughts is what makes this live show so compelling. Johnny, I mean, I think now Crypto Blood, I think you're right on a technicality, but I think CT, Crypto Twitter, the community at large, normies, I think they're going to agree with Johnny over there and say, well, Coinbase said it, so.
Yeah,
well,
but I'm
Coinbase
not.
also custodies all that ETF money, so
Well,
there's also financial interest there. But speaking of financial interest,
good point, Eric. Good point. Yep.
We got a good segue to our next story. Michael Saylor is buying the top. Everybody, if we can share this article real quick. MicroStrategy to raise $600 million to buy more Bitcoin, taking advantage of the run-up in his stock, which is closely correlated to Bitcoin. He ends up selling the stock or raising debt so he can then buy more Bitcoin. So what's weird is he sells his stock as it pumps because of Bitcoin, but then he buys Bitcoin after it pumps there. Pretty interesting strategy. Now, Drew, what is going on with Michael Saylor right now? Is he buying the top to keep the narrative alive, to keep momentum going, or is he just insane?
I think it's a combination of both. I think he's actually he's selling the stock almost to buy Bitcoin, right? Because he's like, I don't want my own stock. I want Bitcoin, right? So the stock is correlated to Bitcoin, but it is not actually Bitcoin, right? So he's like, I can take profits on the stock. I can buy Bitcoin, right? And so that's exactly what he's doing. And also for them, I've said this in previous live streams, I believe on my channel, but he doesn't care, man. Like at the end of the day, even if he buys the top here, his dollar cost average is still so low because their whole business model is just buying Bitcoin at, it doesn't matter what price it is at that point. They're buying it in certain levels, right? In certain time frames. And at the end of the day, he's like, look, I think Bitcoin's going to 500K, $1 million per Bitcoin. So in his opinion, 69K, even if it is the top for right now, is still a deal long-term for him. So I don't think there's really anything different that he's doing now than he was doing previously. And yeah, maybe it is kind of keeping the narrative alive a little bit, but I think a lot of people respect Michael Saylor, and it's almost keeping his own narrative alive. Not even just the Bitcoin narrative, like the Bitcoin's awesome, but his own narrative that it's like, it doesn't matter. Like I'm all in on Bitcoin, right? So I'll buy it anyway.
This is my criticism of Michael Saylor. Okay, he's all in, right? He's never going to sell. What is the point of buying it? If you're never going to sell, then what's the point of buying it? Seriously.
Yeah.
Because at some point,
I think it's
everything goes to zero at some point. So you got to have an exit strategy.
Right.
Yeah, then you're like an Egyptian pharaoh being buried with your gold.
Actually be the currency. Yeah, it's going to be like the currency in his mind.
And he has sold. That's the thing. Like people forget, we got short memories. He sold. MicroStrategy sold last year, right? They had to report it on their filings. They've sold before, and they're going to sell again. I'm just letting everyone know out there. Don't believe the hype. He's going to sell again. MicroStrategy is going to sell again. They have to. Like that's the point. You're going to realize something.
All right. Well, I'm looking into
carries, with the debt. So to me, I mean, it's cool that he's buying, and he's Here's the thing. Why isn't he buying it with cash? You know why? Because he doesn't have any. They lost money last quarter. They have no free cash flow. So they have to go out there and sell stock to buy.
How
Bitcoin.
Dare you give us your facts and figures that go against our narrative, Crypto Blood? I do have a little.
You know me.
Well, I do have a fact I want to share real quick, everybody. I just want to share this. Share my screen real quick. 2030 is when this debt is going to be due. You can see it right there. So $600 million, buying some Bitcoin, and then they're going to have to pay the $600 million back with interest. 2030. Johnny, I'll throw to you. What do you think of that strategy, raising debt to buy Bitcoin, and you got 6 years to pay it back? I mean, is he going to regret this decision?
Well, there's that saying, fortune favors the brave, right? But then you also have these type A personalities that are CEOs that are power hungry. It's never enough. I mean, MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, they've got enough money to be okay forever, but they just want more, and they keep getting more and more. And Grayscale, I believe they own 500,000 BTC, so they own 3% of the supply or something. So it's never going to be enough for Michael. He's already all in, so he's risking it all. So yeah, no, it's literally, you could look throughout history when it comes to people having low expectation is the key to happiness. And if you have just
there you go, Johnny.
astronomical expectations, Bitcoin's going to 1 million, like I'm going to keep buying and buying and buying, just like what Drew said. He didn't care that it's at 65,000. He's just throwing at it, right? And I'm going to stop digressing from there. But
that was good, Johnny. Breaking down the Buddhist wisdom right there. Desire is suffering. That's actually the biggest key to happiness, right there.
I think DZ they should focus on the AI portion of their business. That's actually cash flow generating.
Positive, right?
Bitcoin is not a cash flow asset. Okay, he knows that. He's smart.
Yeah, he's not going to chase yield on a yield farming website, exchange, anything like that. IMJ actually has the alpha here. Sailor believes that if he has all the Bitcoin, then Kelly LeBrock from Weird Science will manifest from his computer only for him. That's a reference like 2% of our audience is going to get, but I love it. It's a great reference there.
And it's other people's money.
I don't even remember what I was going to ask on Michael's.
It's other people's money.
Drew, I mean, I got another question here about him. So he's buying the top. He's a mad lad. He's going crazy. Just what's your thoughts on the domino effect happening here? Because in 2020, he convinces all these corporations are going to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Then Elon did it. Tesla did it. We're like, oh my God, it's happening. Then nothing for 3 years. Are we going to get a second domino?
Oh man, I mean, at the end of the day, he has a lot of sway. He's got a lot of pull. Like, everyone knows who he is. They know what MicroStrategy is. It matters to people. So technically, yeah. And I think the Bitcoin ETFs are really going to help bolster his position and narrative. Like, BlackRock's got it on their books, man. Like, he's kind of looking like a prophet in that sense. Not saying that he is, but to the lay person, they might say, yeah, this guy might know something that we don't. So yeah, there could be another narrative that just like that could definitely happen.
Eric Carlson, what are your thoughts on that? I thought in 2021, you would have told me, hey man, in the next 2 years, what are the odds Apple, Google, Microsoft, Adobe, NVIDIA, what are the odds one of them had some Bitcoin? I'd be like, 80%, 90%. It's definitely happening. Never happened. Hasn't happened. What do you think? Will it happen?
I would have been right there with you. I would have thought that more would have joined because, especially, my theory was with it, hey, the first thing that's going to happen is institutions are going to start getting into Bitcoin. And I saw that happen with MicroStrategy and then Tesla, and you forgot about Block/Square, whatever you want to call them. They bought a bunch too. So I saw that as the, industries getting into Bitcoin. And I always said the next thing was going to be nation states. And then we even got some nation states that happened to go into Bitcoin. So I really thought that it was going to happen faster. But then, of course, bear market scares a lot of people away. But we're going to see that resurgence. And especially now that you can hold it with an ETF. So institutions that already have brokerage accounts, because companies have brokerage accounts, people don't realize companies invest money that they have into assets, and Bitcoin is going to be an asset that they can easily endow with an ETF. So this is going to be a cycle where you're going to have institutions coming in. You already have institutional grade money with all the people who are buying in the ETFs right now. And this is just the beginning of the ETFs. So that domino is going to fall, and it should be falling this cycle. And that's why I think that 4-year cycle is dead, because it's just totally changing the demand side of Bitcoin, because for the last 10, 15 years, we've been in the first 10% of that bell curve of adoption. Now we're going to get from the 10, 15% all the way up to the 80% adoption. And that's going to happen over this next cycle, or maybe the next 2 cycles. So, first 10 years of Bitcoin, minus the first 5 years when it's not really traded on accessible exchanges. So 10 years of tradable on exchanges, Bitcoin, 10% to 15%. For the next 10 years, we're going to have that 15 to 80%, 85% getting brought on. And that's what's going to ruin the cycles. The dominoes are already falling, and you're seeing it because we've been running up like crazy. So,
all right. You brought up the dominoes of sovereign nations as well. I'm going to ask Johnny about that in a second, because I like to get conspiratorial when I got Johnny on. But Zephyr, guys, so you gain money at a faster rate when you buy from the dip. Well, it depends if it keeps dipping, depends what you're buying. I will say this, Zephyr I don't know if this is what you're asking, but I have a largely a weekly DCA strategy. And if it's an insane red day on a Monday or a Wednesday, I might buy on that day instead of Friday. So just a little advice right there. Now, Johnny, we were talking about falling dominoes with corporations. Eric kind of brought up the falling dominoes with sovereign nations. I don't know if you saw the rumor Max Kaiser said Qatar might potentially spend some of their sovereign oil money on Bitcoin. There's even rumors Saudi Arabia, some of these other countries want to get their hands on 1 million Bitcoin. Is that going to come into fruition? What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, those rumors are just great for the space. It's probably, they might, but it's probably not going to be to the extent of what the rumors are. It's probably just going to be a news highlight. So it's a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event. And it's really like, what else is going on? If you want the conspiracy theory, why are we shoveling this when what's going on behind the scenes?
You're talking about Eagle Pass? I'm just kidding, John. I'm kidding, Johnny. I'm kidding. What are you?
I mean, we all believe that Bitcoin is basically gold, right?
Yeah.
Don't think it's going to be a digital currency. And now talking about your DCA strategy, we have entered the bull market. So whenever you get these large liquidation wicks, that is the perfect time to buy. And it's really hard to not just buy the top, like when you get to 69,000. And so really what you should do is control your emotions, wait for the giant liquidation candle. And then as soon as you see those long tails, you start buying to either trade or low leverage or just buy and hold, because that's going to be the better strategy.
All right.
Johnny's point.
Well, we go ahead, Blood, because one more thing, Blood. I talked to Ian Bellina, and he said the FSS, Russians, the new KGB, Ian Bellina in 2021 was like, no, Russia's been buying, a lot of nations been buying, they're just not saying it. We got El Salvador. What are your thoughts on the oil nations, Russia, some of these nations? Do you think they're adding Bitcoin as they're dumping U.S. treasuries, U.S. dollars?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think to Eric's point, he's saying, he was expecting the corporate entities to buy Bitcoin. No, expect the nations, the sovereign nations to buy Bitcoin, because that's a better play for them, right? As gold, as a digital gold, they can hedge against inflation of the US dollar hegemony, right? So that to me is where we should be looking, and they're probably already buying it. And you're going to see more and more of it. I'm not really concerned. I don't think that these corporations are going to buy it, because again, gold is not, it doesn't yield anything from it, holding it on their balance sheet as a corporation. You have a fiduciary responsibility to make money for your stakeholders, for your shareholders. And that's not, in my opinion, how many companies do you see hold gold? So think of it that way. You're not going to see too many companies, in my opinion, hold digital gold, i.e. Bitcoin. It's going to be the sovereign nations that's going to really take this bad boy to the next level.
All right. Well, Drew, question on that topic. What is the biggest benefit for a corporation that, does a little $1 billion buy? I say little because some of these companies got hundreds of billions of dollars in cash on hand. So when a company buys $1 billion of Bitcoin, is the best gain from this, is the best advantage from this, hey, I have $1 billion that's going to maybe beat inflation? Or is it, now Michael Saylor's going to tweet about me and the freaks on Twitter are going to start buying my t-shirt?
Yeah, I think it's it could be even threefold, right? So you've got something that can hedge, right, against inflation, as long as, long-term wise, as long as you can, bear through the dips and the peaks and the valleys, right? Then you can make money off of it, right? So a lot of these companies that own gold, they will actually sell options on that gold, right? Or futures contracts. Then secondarily from that, you can also see kind of getting into that crypto market, I guess, where everybody is there, right? And you look like a crypto friendly company, and then you've targeted this new demographic of younger, mostly males. It's not all male, but, males from, probably 20 to 25 years old, all the way up to about 40, maybe 45. And if that's your target demographic, then crypto is where you want to be. Same thing with gambling, right? There's a reason why you see like the stakes and the Rubits of the world allowing crypto investors to come in, right? Or allowing people to use crypto. So, I mean, those are your target demographics. And yeah, it would make a lot of sense to do that. And then, back to Blood's statement, I think that he's, to help bolster what he's saying, if you look at what the BRICS nations are doing, right? There's only a few companies out here that are legitimately putting their money into Bitcoin. Like even for somebody like Apple, a company like Apple that has $162 billion in cash right now.
Yeah.
Why
And
haven't they
haven't.
put like even $1 billion into it, which is peanuts to them? It's like a half a percent, like 0.75% of their cash on hand, right? And if the BRICS nations are out here buying all of this gold up and they're planning on putting this this new world currency that's probably going to be a digital currency together backed by gold, then I could definitely see them backing it with also digital gold too, as like almost like a basketed asset pool. You see what I'm
like
saying?
Libra.
Drew,
So,
I got
yeah,
a theory on that.
All right, go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah.
There's something important.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
It's got to be
And then
their
Eric.
publicly traded companies, right? So it's not the cool thing to do. It to most people, it feels like wasting money to invest in crypto. Not the people that are watching this channel, but if you talk to anyone else and you talk about cryptocurrency, they're like, "Oh, you're still doing that? Oh, I thought it was a scam," because the outside world doesn't want this to succeed, because the people that have the money, the big banks that own the news channels, tell everybody not to buy crypto because it's their number one competitor, because you need to have a bank to transact. You don't want to be your own bank, so they don't want you to. So it's not hip, it's not trending, it's not cool. A lot of the shareholders are going to be pissed if some of these major companies start buying big portions of crypto.
All right, and
you might.
Okay, one more thing from chat, and then we'll throw it to Eric and close it out. If we can share my screen, someone just typed in, "Oh, Sheep's pumping already." Let's just see what the draw is. There's so many zeros, it's hard to tell. Is this a good pump? Is this a fake pump? I don't know what kind of pump it is, folks. We're going to measure this. These are 5-minute candles, and just a casual 40% pump in an hour or two. Just Sheeb being Sheeb, everybody. These you got to be real careful with those meme coins, everyone. Eric. Heck, you got to be careful with Bitcoin today. Eric, I'll let you wrap it up. What are your thoughts on the whole? I'll let you just give us your parting thoughts here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to address what Drew said about, why hasn't Apple put $1 billion of their $182 billion in cash into it? And it's because of all of the asset managers. They don't know how to treat Bitcoin yet. If you look at the capital asset pricing models right now, everyone is saying, oh, it's 1 to 3% Bitcoin. That's what we need. But with the Sharpe ratios, when you use an uncapped model, that's what we saw, a month or two ago when BlackRock leaked their asset allocation that says, oh, you need to have like 89% in Bitcoin. And it's because the Sharpe ratios of Bitcoin are so darn good that your risk versus reward, that's what Sharpe ratio basically is. It takes your risk reward and your alpha and your beta.
Volatility.
And it kind of, exactly. It's your volatility too. So the Sharpe ratio of Bitcoin is so good that if you use an uncapped model, then it says you should own 89% of your assets should be in Bitcoin. And no one is ever going to do that. No one's ever going to do that with any asset ever. And they immediately had to retract and say, well, let's just say it's 1 to 3 because we don't know anything yet. It's not a known quantity. In reality, that as we see it happening, we already saw 1 to 3% is not what the Stanford endowment is doing. They did 7%. Yeah. And I think you're going to see other endowments are going to start doing 5%, 7%, 10%, maybe some 15%. That number is going to jump from 1 to 3%, and it's going to go to 10 to 15, and then from 15 to 25. And I think 25 is about where you want it to be because it's a totally new asset class. And so you're going to have, all these companies you don't realize, like, you say, oh, what do they put their cash into? They put their cash into real estate mostly, office buildings, all sorts of commercial real estate. Apple owns tons of commercial real estate out there. So, they do allocate their cash to different things. And as soon as the CAPMs, that's the capital asset pricing models, as soon as those rebound from the low end of the 1 to 3 and they get to the 10 to 15 to 20% that I think we're going to see, that's when you're going to start seeing all these companies really pouring into Bitcoin. So as soon as those asset projections happen, that's when we get the move.
All right, great stuff right there. We got a great chat. By the way, I am Jay. Thank you for answering all the questions. Zephyr, just feel free to ask anything here, folks. And folks, hit that like button. We're bringing you this live content Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every week. We always have just the best guests, and we put links for all 4 guests down below in the description. We know we got a lot of new viewers, so go check out their content. Go make sure you follow their content and leave 87 comments on every post that they've ever done for their entire lives. Or just, maybe follow them. We would appreciate that as well. And folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't get shaken out of the markets.